Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. One of the scribes came to Jesus and asked him, "Which is the first of all the commandments?" Jesus replied, "The first is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is Lord alone. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: You shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these." The scribe said to him, "Well said, teacher. You are right in saying, He is the one, there is no other. And to love him with all your heart, with all your understanding, with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself is worth more than all burnt offerings and sacrifices." And when Jesus saw that he had answered with understanding, he said to him, "You are not far from the kingdom of God." And no one dared to ask him any more questions. The Gospel of the Lord. It's interesting how you get the sense that one of the ways you get the sense that someone loves you is when they pay attention to you. When what they say is something that seems to be heard. And when Jesus uses the word "hear," especially in this context, "Hear, O Israel," there's also an obligation not only to hear, but to place credence in the one who is speaking and act on it. So you can listen to somebody, like when you go to class and you're bored and you have the glazed look on your face. You don't see that, but your teacher does. You have the glazed look on your face and your mind is totally someplace else. That's not necessarily listening with love. One of the complaints I hear from married couples is, he or she doesn't listen to me because something is said and it makes no difference 5 minutes later because the hearing was not combined with acting upon the words. Am I making sense here? Okay. And so when Jesus begins this commandment and he says, "Hear, O Israel," he's asking them to love him. Please listen to me, because I love you. It's funny how when we go to pray, we want Jesus to listen to us. We want him to hear all of our demands and requests, and we want them answered quickly. We expect him to hear us, and we expect him to do what we ask. And yet, when it comes time for the part of listening to him, what kind of love are we receiving or are we giving in response to his love? It's a good question. And so this scribe comes along, and it's obvious he's paying attention, and Jesus credits him with understanding, like he just didn't hear. He really took it in. And so when Jesus is saying here, love the Lord, right? Love the Lord your God and him alone. In other words, I'm listening to you and I'm focusing my attention on you. There's a pattern here for also the way we deal with one another, not only with God. And so while it's good to say, maybe pray the rosary while you're driving, it's really hard to look at Christ in the face while you're driving and have that real personal time with him alone. You see? So that's why we need an isolated time to pray and to take a personal time with him alone. You shall love the Lord your God alone. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. And so I'm listening now with my heart. In other words, I am paying attention to the person I'm listening to, and I'm trying to be understanding of their feelings. So I'm engaging my heart. And when I do that in prayer and talk to God, okay, and I love him with my heart, I start to remember how he feels about me. Like he died on the cross for me. That's very important. In other words, God's first effort toward loving me was to make a sacrifice for me. And although he has millions and billions of people to listen to, he is listening to me right now. I'm getting some pretty specific attention. And so in my heart, I become conscious of that. Love the Lord with your soul, with all your soul. It's not so, now it goes beyond emotion, but it becomes a spiritual thing. And a spiritual thing means faith. Like deep down inside, I want to trust him. And faith also means not only do I trust him, but I'm going to act as if I can trust him. So what he says, I'm going to do. And with all your mind, it's something that I'm doing purposefully. I have the intention to do this, and he's got my attention. I'm not looking at him with the glazed look on my face. I'm looking at him like, my attention here is focused on you. We're doing this. And with all your strength. Sometimes, I'm sure it's happened to you, sometimes we have to listen to somebody and it can be a difficulty to listen to them. Maybe that's never happened to you. But sometimes it's hard to just sit down and really pay attention. Or it's hard to listen to a particular person. And sometimes, this is between me and my confessor for the specifics, but sometimes I've gone before God and it was hard to go in front of him because there was some issues that I was not proud of, but I had to do it. And it took my strength to do that. It took courage. And sometimes we have to do that when we relate to other people as well. And Jesus says, this is very interesting. The second is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And so what for our purposes today, you could say, Jesus is saying, yeah, you show your love by listening to me. I show my love by listening to you. And if you like that, then maybe you need to be listening to other people too. The way I listen to them. Love your neighbor as yourself. And this scribe, he gets that. He gets it.
Regina Celi,